thing that's really started to grind my gears on social media lately is when dermatologist or any kind of skincare professional gets up, creates a video, and talks about how you shouldn't listen to anyone on TikTok.
I feel like this video is really about me and perhaps some of my dermatologist colleagues, because I recently responded to some of Natalie's videos and said that they had a lot of misinformation in them. Initially, I was going to stitch that video and say, like, let's have a dialogue about this. But Natalie blocked me, which I always say it's anybody's right to block anybody that they want, so good for her. I know this is going to get sent to her. Natalie, you commented on one of my posts saying that you think I don't like you. I don't know you, so I can't dislike you personally. I feel that I'm just doing my job. You actually bring up a really important issue here, which is access to dermatological services. I think you live in the UK, and it's not an issue that's isolated there. I think it's a pretty worldwide thing. Her point in that original video is that she's tired of dermatologists blaming people for looking for information on social media. And speaking for myself, that's not what I'm doing. I understand that access is a huge issue in dermatology. And that's part of the reason that I initially started posting online. I wanted to make really sound, evidence-based information about skin health available for free. And you know what? I think it should be more available. I give talks at national conferences of derms and other doctors, and I tell them they should get on social media. The more of us there are to give out, good information, the better. Unfortunately, as Natalie alluded to, there is a lot of misinformation online. And me and some other professionals have taken it upon ourselves to call out misinformation when we see it. Speaking for myself, I don't particularly have a thing against influencers. I've called out other doctors. I've called out things that are perpetuated by other dermatologists that aren't evidence-based. I think all of us with large platforms and large followings have an ethical responsibility to provide people with the best information. And in saying I shouldn't feel that way and, people just get what they get on social media and that should be fine, you're basically saying that those people who don't have access, which tend to be underserved people more often, they don't deserve good information. They deserve whatever they can get, which, especially when it comes to medical conditions, is like just an awful take. In a lot of conditions, even in the stuff that I talk about, lost time can result in worse outcomes overall. But let's look at the bigger picture, like, are influencers doing a bad job talking about skin issues? To tell you the truth, it depends on the person. I've gone on record and been in the press saying that, hey, if Skinfluencers at the very least get more people to wear sunscreen, like, that's a public health win, so I'm fine with that. However, again, if you have a large audience, the burden is on you to make sure that the information that you're providing is correct. And you can look things up and vet them as much as you can. I understand that that might not be easy for people who aren't in the field that they're talking about. But there are ways of making sure that you have correct information. A lot of the time, I think that social media kind of like rewards speed or saying the most outrageous thing, so people are not very well researched, or they take whatever they hear and just repeat it, assuming that it's correct. And that really is a pitfall of the world we live in and how we process information now. I also think there's a big difference between sharing like your own anecdotal experience and trying to give people advice. So for instance, if you're saying, hey, I had acne, I struggled with acne, this is what I did, and this is what I felt like worked for me or what my results were. That's fine. Like, that is, anecdotal information has a place in this world. And you're speaking to your own experience, which, you know the truth about that. Where I take issue is like when people start making blanket statements or start talking about medical conditions like, they know what they're talking about and haven't vetted any information and have no references. So one of Natalie's videos that I recently responded to said, hey, are you struggling with hormonal acne? These are all the things you should do. Which, I can't even get into all the issues with that. Like, it encourages people to self-diagnose. It's potentially wasting their time on treatments that won't work in a condition where, there's the ability to scar, so you could have potentially like lifelong consequences. And in addition to that, when you were like selling online skincare guides and also like basically consultations, phone calls, When you have no training and basically like the only skin that you have probably ever touched is your own, I think there's a major ethical issue with that. Even if you give a little like legal disclaimer there, I think that this is almost like an admission that you know what you're doing, in my opinion. So what is the takeaway from this? I think that there should be increased access to dermatologists and medicine in general in the world, and that's going to depend on a lot of things outside of social media. Yes, people are turning to social media more and more for information about their personal health, and I think the responsibility is on those creating the content to provide them with sound, evidence-based information. Meaning that if you say something, you should be able to vet it yourself. Like what I said before, it's very easy to give correct information about anecdote because it's your own experience. It is way more difficult to try to give people information about their own skin conditions when you don't even know what they are. I think that everyone deserves true, accurate, evidence-based information, no matter who they are. And to say that people with less access should just be fine with like misinformed information on social media, like that is a terrible take. That's the wrong take. And lastly, if you have no experience treating other people's skin, if you're not in a skin related professional field, if you've only ever touched your own skin, maybe you shouldn't be charging people for consultations. I'm going to continue calling out misinformation and providing evidence based content. So I hope you come along for the ride.